A major theme in the 1970s and 1980s was self-expression and being able to formulate your own ideas. Many young people during this time period were able to formulate their own ideas and shift from very conservative values, traditional values, to this newfound freedom of speech. I think that a lot of that had to do with the culture and the music of that time period. So for my project, I wanted to explore how music influenced this newfound freedom of speech and these new ideals that came about in the 1970s and 80s. So my family has a connection to the music industry through my grandpa. He was a successful record producer in Canada during that time period at a company called Capitol Records. He's also in the Canadian Music Industry Hall of Fame. Unfortunately, he's not alive today to be interviewed, but my mom was able to be alongside him through a lot of these concerts and seeing how it affected not only her environment, but the rest of the world.
How has music changed from the 1970s or 80s to now?
How has music changed?
How has live music changed from the 1970s or 80s?
How has live music changed? I think that the venues are the same. A lot of them have been torn down since the 70s and bigger venues have been created, but there's still the club scene. I think it's pretty similar to what it was in the 70s and the 80s.
So today, many artists use music as a means of telling what's happening around the world and stuff, and for events like Live Aids. Did this happen during the 70s or 80s?
Live Aid, Farm Aid, Sun City, that all happened in the 70s. It was a bigger platform than what they use today. Today, music has always been a voice of the times as to what's going on or what the artists may care about or the current issues. Those were bigger venues and bigger undertakings. They had Live Aid going on in 2 different countries simultaneously, and that was to raise awareness of starvation in Africa. I haven't seen anything of that magnitude done since. Farm Aid was in the US to aid the farmers. Sun City was about apartheid. There were still artists like Peter Gabriel who were doing songs like Biko, raising consciousness and awareness of things that were actually taking place in the world that maybe not everybody would be aware of. I think that still happens.
So during events like the Vietnam War and the hippie love movement, people were very outspoken about global issues. Do you think that music played a part in that and made them more vocal and able to? Okay, so today there are apps and other means of discovering new bands on the internet and all that kind of stuff, but there didn't have that in the 1970s. So how did you discover new artists or genres?
The radio and the television. Videos were very, very big. They started to come around, and television networks like MTV and where I grew up in Canada, it was Much Music, would air videos. So we all watched videos, and those are what made the music popular. It also gave the artist another way to express what they wanted to portray with their songs. So I think that probably now you have more access to global music if you want it, but it depends on where you were located, what kind of access you had.
Express their opinions.
I think it gave them a platform to do it. I think that the 60s, when the war and 60s, early 70s, when all that was happening, people were starting to question some of the things that the governments were doing and being in those countries and going to war and trying to look for alternative ways to address issues versus doing it through force. And people were trying to do the peace.
I think that a lot of these ideas are still relevant in society, and music continues to be an outlet for people for freedom of expression and being able to just express their voice and their opinions on whatever it may be, and it's still relevant in the modern world as well as the 70s and the 80s. Thank you.